episode 3, which is also the number of people still watching this dreadful show. And Meghan Markle, or Meghan Sussex, or Meghan Mountbatten Windsor, or whatever she calls herself these days, has decided to give up cooking duties, given that her rather amateurish efforts in the kitchen risked giving the cast and crew Ebola. We haven't quite worked out what Meghan's talents actually are just yet, and having watched a few episodes of Suits and this new Netflix series, I'm none the wiser. Answers on a postcard, please. What is Meghan actually good at? The best I can offer is that she's good at getting what she wants. And if she wanted an exceptional professional chef to join her on the show, then she certainly got that in the form of the charismatic Roy Choi, world-renowned expert in South Korean cookery. Happy days. In fact, this guy is such a pro in the kitchen, making his recipes look delicious and accessible. Why didn't Netflix skip Meghan and give this guy 33 minutes of airtime instead? He's more entertaining than Meghan, more skilled, and his other great selling point is that he's what we would call a sentient Homo sapiens mammal, or a human being, unlike Meghan Markle, who as each episode goes by appears to be nothing more than a grinning hologram. If the metaphysical phenomenon that is Meghan began walking through the walls of her posh mansion, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised. But Roy Choi is a fleshy, smiling, laughing, breathing, actual man with a blood supply. And he knows his way around the kitchen, unlike Meghan, who looks at a gas cooker as though it's some kind of futuristic invention. Prior to Roy's arrival, Meghan decides to rustle up some doughnuts. Now, the recipe is very simple: sugar, butter, and flour. And this Hollywood veteran doesn't look uncomfortable sifting through a huge bowl of white powder. In fact, she looks positively energized by it. Although, as an actress on a former TV show, even being in the same room as sugar and butter would have been a sackable offence. Meghan tells us about her history of donut making, working in a small donut shop called Little Orbit Donut. It really is a compelling life story, isn't it? And one that makes Winston Churchill's past sound positively uneventful. Eventually, Meghan will write her memoirs, and she's had such a compelling life that they'll have to go into multiple volumes, although I'd be inclined to place these memoirs in the fiction section of the bookshop, or at the very least in the children's area. Expressing her passion for donuts, she utters the inimitable line, "Little things bring me a lot of pleasure." That'll be very reassuring to her husband, Prince Harry, and bodes well for the future of their marriage. The dog Guy features in the show as well, spending most of the 33 minutes asleep, just like the viewing audience. Meghan reverts to her strange habit of putting dried flowers onto the food. This makes no culinary sense whatsoever, but given the fact that she's selling edible dried flowers on her website, that gives you an idea as to why it's mentioned every 11 seconds. And she's guilty, not for the first time, of the oversell. As she sprinkles desiccated petals over the donut glaze, she says, "Look at that, it's crazy." I beg to differ, Meghan. Crazy is Netflix commissioning this show, one that's already run out of steam by the 3rd instalment. It remains the eternal question, why are Netflix making this show? I thought the big tech giants were working hard to get rid of offensive content that could cause upset to viewers. Half an hour of With Love Meghan is far more mentally scarring than the worst corner of TikTok. The dark web looks positively wholesome by comparison. Now our friendly chef Roy Choi arrives and Meghan screams, "I'm so happy you're here! I'm so happy you're here!" in an effort to convince herself as well as anyone else. The only time she actually means it, when she says, "I'm so happy you're here," is first thing in the morning when she's doing her makeup in the mirror. Now, the two bond over their history of living in Los Angeles. Meghan doing a good line in Modesty, proudly saying, "We're just two kids from LA." That's right, Meghan is completely normal. A multimillionaire world-famous actress living in a house with 16 bathrooms and married to an English prince. Nothing to see here. But here's the thing. Roy is doing the cooking today, but he must have lost a bet because he's starting his day by trying one of Meghan's donuts. Just like his host, he looks like the type reluctant to swallow. For what feels like 7 hours, Meghan decides to soak chicken in brine. And I've realised that watching someone soak chicken in brine is the new watching paint dry. In fact, watching paint dry is like watching the latest Mission Impossible film compared to this bore fest. It is by some distance the most tedious episode so far. One of the few highlights is when Meghan attempts to tenderize the chicken. She's relatively successful. Now all we've got to do is make her a bit softer. Good luck with that. From that famous tight grin to the sharp elbows, you'll be fighting a losing battle. Meghan does her bit for diversity by saying several times how much she likes South Korean people and has so many South Korean friends. She kept saying it. She went on and on about how many South Korean friends that she's got. Does she collect them? I'm slightly concerned that she keeps them in an underground lair, the same place where she keeps Harry. She said she often hears Korean parents saying to their children, Hajima, which means make it stop, capturing my exact emotions about this TV show. Meghan is crazy competitive with everyone, including the chef. He says that he cleans up in the kitchen and when he's staying in a hotel. Oh, I do that too, says Meghan. She's crushingly disappointed when he already knows her fun fact that LA is the world capital of doughnuts. She claims to have been to all of the quirky LA eateries that he mentions. And when he compliments her onion chopping skills, she says this has been the best day. Of course it's been the best day, because everything has gone her way. With a compliant guest who tells her everything she wants to hear, Meghan is happy. Why? Because Meghan's a control freak and will not tolerate dissent, which is why this accommodating chef is the perfect foil for our Megs. But even though he spent most of his energy propping up Meghan's ego, her intermittent relationship with the truth rears its ugly head again. During a walk in the garden, Megs warns Roy about this dangerously spicy chili that she tried the day before. So he gets one from the garden. On munching it, he says, "These aren't spicy at all." With rage in her eyes, she says, "Yes, they are. What are you talking about?" He said, "Sorry, but they're not." She then reached for one, tasted it, and acknowledged her error. But she won't acknowledge what could easily be seen as a big fat lie, or at least BS, saying, "Oh, it must have been some other kind of chili that I tried." Another Meghan tall story to add to all of the others. Having deep fried some chicken and coated every vegetable known to man in spicy kimchi, the chef Roy was quite happy with his results and said to Meghan, "We're done," something Harry's been plucking up the courage to say for years. We don't see much of the crew who are filming the show this week. Presumably, producers don't want us to see their haunted faces and the abject terror in their eyes. This will be their TV Vietnam, and many may never recover. Now, Roy makes a classic mistake at the end by saying to Meghan, "We are family now." Careful, Roy, that means she'll dump you in about 6 months' time. And at the end, Meghan repeats the mantra that it was a good day. Maybe for her, but not for anyone watching. This is just episode 3, folks. We've got 5 more to go. The nightmare is to be continued.